Hi everyone, it's Tom Mackie. Over the past few months, I've been photographing some really exotic countries such as Thailand, Singapore, the US, and the Algarve in Portugal. But today, I've decided to come to one of my old haunts in Britain, one of the most beautiful seaside towns in the country, in my opinion, Southwold. So normally, most people would come here during the summertime to enjoy the pier, the beach, the harbor, the lighthouse, and don't forget the beer. Adam's beer, fantastic. But only photographers would come here in the dead of winter. So I've come out on a nice, chilly January day to photograph the pier. And what I want to do is show you how to actually create a really nice, calm, peaceful image out of torrential, blowing gale force winds that we have here today. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started and get set up. Okay, don't let the blue skies behind me fool you. It's blowing an absolute gale here. We've got sea foam blowing all over the place. And there's one thing that you've got to remember. First tip, when you get an onshore wind like this, you're going to have salt covering everything. It's going to cover your filters, your lens. You're going to be constantly wiping that all the time. So it's really good to have something like some optical wipes or some spray or something just to spray on that to clean it. So I was here about 45 minutes before sunrise to get set up and just do a few test shots. And it didn't look very promising because there were so many clouds about. But actually, these clouds were actually blowing towards the lens, which is great for long exposure because it's going to give you that burst effect. Also, it acts as a leading line if you get the right clouds coming in from the corner leading into the pier. So the first thing to think about is composition. I wanted to use the leading lines of the foreground of these rocks. And you've got the pier coming in from the corner, and then there's a little post out in the water. I wanted to make sure I had that in there as well because I didn't want to crop that out or put it too far on the edge of the frame. So let me talk you through some of the filtration that I'm using. Now, with the light levels being so low, if you're using an ND filter, it's going to be so long. Now, what I've done here is to obtain a really long exposure, I've used a polarizer. Now, shooting into the sun, normally you wouldn't use a polarizer, but you can increase your exposures by using a polarizer. And then you've got your grad filter over the sky. Take your ISO and put it down to the lowest setting. So I used 64 ISO. And that gave me something like a 30-second exposure to a minute. And obviously you're stopping down. I wouldn't go too far. On something like this, I was doing about f14 was the max. I don't like to go past that on something like this because it softens the image a little bit too much to my liking. So as the light levels start to increase though, then you need to change. So I've changed my ISO. I've taken the polarizer off, and then I used a little stopper. Now, the little stopper allowed me to get a minute exposure with this. So that was ideal to create those really calm conditions. Okay, so some of the crucial elements that you want to be aware of when you're putting something like this together. The tides. I mean, we calculated the tide to coincide with sunrise. It's it's coming on to a high tide, so that's great because we have some foreground with those big boulders, and with the waves coming up around those boulders, it's going to create a really cool misty effect around that. Now the other thing is, with the direction of the wind, with an onshore wind like I mentioned earlier, it's great for pictures, but not so much for filming. As you can hear, it's terrible. But the thing when you have clouds, if you have the right clouds moving towards you, that creates a really nice element over a long exposure. So what aperture should we use? Now I mentioned earlier I was using f14, so why not f22? f22 gives you that sunburst effect, of course, when the sun's a really nice bright light source. But we had too many clouds this morning, so there wasn't that opportunity to use that. Now, shooting at f/22 also softens the image through diffraction of the element in the lens. So I chose to shoot at f/14, and because we've got a foreground here, we've got the background with the pier. Now, if I shot at, say, f/8 or 5/6, there's probably not going to be enough depth of field there to encompass the foreground and the background. So I wanted to choose a happy medium, so I chose f/14. So at the end of this video, I want to show you a series of images, starting off with the first one, just showing you how stormy the effect is with the sea here. And then going on using the ND filter, giving that really nice, calm, placid effect, and the movement that you get with the clouds moving through the sky. And as it progressed on, the light changed so much. And just from just one position, showing you all the different, just different effects that you can get with the light. And it was just playing around with different exposures, different times. I went from, say, 30 seconds to a minute to 2 minutes, and the different effect you can get with that with the clouds. So the nice thing about photographing in Southwold on a day like this is I'm close to the calf. It's right there. I'm heading over there for a hot chocolate now. So I hope you enjoyed coming out with me on this very cold January morning. And if you haven't subscribed to our channel, do so. We've got lots of great videos coming in 2019. Make sure you hit that like button, and I'll see you again soon. Bye for now.